First time I've gotten a chair, so thanks. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Yep. Let's do it. I call this meeting to order. Good. Everybody stand for a moment of silence and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag with justice. All right, so probably have to use my microphone. But I'd be looking for a motion to approve the regular meeting and proposed agenda.
So moved. Second.
And we'll have to do vote by roll call. So, Mr. Dolanowski,
Aye.
Mr. Gray,
Aye.
I vote aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have item 2, which is county proclamations, recognition appointments, 2.1. Bruce, do you want to take that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. First of all, I just want to note, Russ, we had all these people come for you. So yeah, they don't get to meet the surveyor very often. So welcome. Today, members of the board, we have the opportunity to reappoint Russ to serve as the county surveyor. The public works director and county engineer, Andrew Whittle, will just give a brief note about that, and then we will ask Russ to say hi, and then ask for you to approve the reappointment of Russ.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, county board members. Appreciate the opportunity this morning. As Bruce mentioned, we're here this morning to seek the reappointment of the county surveyor, Russ Heiling. Under Minnesota state statute, we can appoint a county surveyor for up to 4 years, and that's the term that we're looking for, is noted in the packet there, from October 3rd, 2026 to October 3rd, 2030. Hopefully he stays around that long, and we want to keep him around. Russ is one of our long timers that has been with us and kind of worked his way through the ranks, if you will. So starting off in the county surveyor's department and working his way up to county surveyor after he had received and obtained his county surveyor's license and all of tutelage and things that go along with that. So as I mentioned, Russ started here in February of 1993. So he's been with us a long time, and we appreciate his vast knowledge and history that he has with the county, and then just his ability to be able to work with the developers, the folks that are bringing in plats, doing all of the statutorily required items as needed, as far as maintaining all of our monuments, which is absolutely critical to establishing property corners and lot lines and everything else along the way. So with that, I'm pleased to recommend to the county board the reappointment of Mr. Russ Heiling for county surveyor for the next 4 years.
All right, with that said, I'd be looking for a motion.
So moved.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would just ask Russ that when we go back out and we issue the monuments, that we make sure that the letter goes to the homeowners that were coming to their properties. As you remember, we did have a process where some homeowners were not notified, and then they were taken back by us being on the property, which we always go to the property to redo their monuments, but sometimes they forget over time, and then the property owners change. So I just ask that Public Works go above and beyond, deliver the message, and we're going to come back out and re-verify the monuments when we do that on that. Is there 4 years?
It's actually, I believe it's a 10-year schedule
10-year. There you go.
for
10
all
years.
the monuments.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Absolutely, we will.
Yep. Voting yes.
Mr. Administrator.
Russ, do you want to say a few words? And I think since we have some folks here, do you also want to describe the difference between what a county surveyor does and what a private surveyor does? Sometimes there's confusion on that. So
I'll keep it short because I see it's busy here. You got a lot on the agenda. The county surveyor, a private surveyor usually has one client they're working for, and then in the best interest of their client. Where at the county here, my best interest, our best interest is all the taxpayers. So we try to make sure that the health and welfare of all the taxpayers is being considered when somebody's doing a certain survey and stuff like that. So that's the main difference there. Is a private surveyor is working for one client, where when the things come here, we're working for all the clients here.
So if somebody wants to get like their property line marked, they don't call you, they would call somebody else.
Right.
And then in doing so, we don't have like a preferred list as well. We don't refer people to individual surveyors. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, we don't give out names of certain surveyors, anything. I always tell them, to look at the phone book, kind of deal. But yeah, we don't do private surveys. The county does. We take care of the section corners. As far as getting inside sections, we don't do that work.
Any further discussion? All right, with that, we've got a motion and a second. We'll take the vote. Commissioner Gray.
Aye.
Commissioner Delanowski.
Aye.
Mr. Felber.
Aye.
Mr. Schilling.
Aye.
And I vote aye. So motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, now for the fun part, open forum. So Bruce, I'll have you read the instructions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Open forum, and the purpose of the open forum is for the public to provide input and or information on items that are not on the agenda or not requiring action by the county board. It is requested that speakers refrain from personal attacks and any kind of attacks against another person, commissioner, or employee. It is requested that speakers refrain from campaign-style presentations. The time limit is 3 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 5 speakers per open forum. The time limit may be shortened or extended at the discretion of the board chair. The open forum may be continued following the conclusion of the regular business meeting or regular business agenda items. It is requested that all input or information be addressed to the Board of Commissioners, not to members of the audience. And speaker handouts are public information, so the county may make copies of such handouts for the public if needed. And finally, the county board chair will ensure that the open forum policy is followed. I would note for the county board and the community, we do have a hard stop at 9:30 this morning to go to the cafeteria for a closed activity.
So with that said, as I mentioned when I was doing the when I was talking to you before, it'll be five speakers. If you're one of the first 5 and someone has already made your points and you want to pass so that someone else has the opportunity to speak, feel free to do so. We will also, as I mentioned, be setting up today another forum that will provide more opportunity to speak back and forth. It'll be a more informal process so that everybody can get their input in. Okay.
The one thing that might be helpful is if, even if as you're leaving, if you could just come and let me know if you would prefer an evening meeting for the open forum or a day meeting. I'll just keep a little notepad out here. That would be super helpful. Thank you.
And then when you get up to the podium, give your name and your address, please. So with that being said, we'll start with our first speaker.
Board Chair, we have 14 speakers signed up today, spanning over 7 different items. The first 2 speakers all have the same item for County Road 23 shift. Would you guys like to consolidate your item for having 1 speaker? It would be Lee McDowell and Mike McDowell.
That'd be helpful if we could try to do 1 speaker for that topic.
There are 2 speakers for County Road 23 shift.
Okay. Whoever would like to speak, go ahead. You can make your way to the podium, please.
Can you speak up, please?
Is your mic on?
Commissioners, thank you for your time. I'm here on behalf of myself and my neighbors that are on the east side of the County Road 23 road project. We are all frustrated and feel we have been deceived about the actual scope of work that is being done on the project. When a path was first proposed and a grant accepted, we all had the same questions. Will the path be on or affect the east side? We were told it would not affect the east side as the path is going to be installed on the west. Mailers, flyers, and pop-up booths about the project all reference the Sherburne County website and 2040 transportation plan if we had additional questions about the project. The county website has no mention of road relocation, and this is the picture from the 2040 plan that shows the road centered with an additional path alongside it. To our knowledge, this is what was going to be installed. We have since found out that is not true after needing additional trees removed up to 15 feet past county right-of-way for utilities. When utility poles were staked to be moved, I called the Public Works Department and they assured me the poles had to be moved because the road is being widened and we need to meet new state regulations due to the state grant, completely omitting the fact that the road was actually being shifted to the east. Upon finding out that the road was being shifted, I reached out to county staff again, voicing my frustration, and they said the road was being shifted 6 feet to offset the location of the new trail. Claiming they are centering the road and trail in the corridor. I later found out the road is actually being shifted an unprecedented 10 feet to the east. I then reached out to Becker Township Supervisor Mark Swanson, who also stated he had asked about the shift due to the new path and was told the road would not be shifting. While centering pavement sounds fair on paper, it is far from fair in reality. Like I said, trees had to be removed 15 feet onto county property. Vehicle traffic will now be closer to homes on the east side, lowering safety and potentially lowering property value, all while homes on the west have an additional walking path, which creates a net neutral or positive change in property value due to easy trail access and moving high-speed traffic further from their homes. There are 5 homes on the east side, all within 150 feet of the current road center line, that will be greatly impacted by this in a negative way. Also, contrary to what I was told from the county, centering of the pavement, the plans show the burden of the pavement is not centered in the corridor. The average distance between road edge to right-of-way on the east is less than the average distance between the path edge and right-of-way on the west. I don't see how the county can justify moving the road center line to the east 10 feet for a half a mile during a 1 mile section of trail. The shift is unprecedented, unnecessary, was uncommunicated to these residents, and inconsistent with the Sherburne County 2040 transportation plan. I'm asking that the board review this section of the plan and follow up with me, and I can stay after the remainder of the meeting if we could discuss it further.
And I'm sorry, did you state your name and address?
Sorry, my name is Lee McDowell, address 10565, County Road 23.
Okay, thank you.
Our next 2 speakers also share a common issue. It's Brenda Hansen and Terry Dickinson on protecting the vote. Will you be consolidating your item?
It'd be helpful if you could.
Good morning, Vice Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for your time and attention today. My name is Brenda Hansen and I'm here with Terry Dickinson. We are following up on our request for a sergeant at arms at early voting and election day locations. We were disturbed by the public comments from County Administrator Bruce Misselt in the recent Alpha News article. If you are not aware of the interview, we have copies to share. Mr. Misselt did not merely disagree with us. He labeled our group as directly affiliated with a candidate for county auditor and dismissed the concerns we brought to this board as campaign hyperbole and a clear conflict of interest. Those remarks were out of line. They reduced documented problems into a political smear. In no way has the information we've shared been exaggerated. Our presentation has been based on the Sheriff's Office investigation report, staff interviews, surveillance video, and the confirmed problems that occurred during the 2024 early voting period at the Auditor Treasurer's Office. Plus, I have a copy here of a police report of a similar situation that happened in Stearns County during the same 2024 general election. This was not an isolated incident. Both counties experienced voting irregularities. They include double voting, large coordinated groups of voters, overwhelming staff, repeated handling of applications by the same individuals, and a loss of order and proper procedure. This is an organized voter fraud ring. None of this is about any single candidate. These are facts about election accuracy, the safety of our election workers, and the public's right to orderly elections. Every voter in Sherburne County deserves that standard. When a county administrator publicly frames legitimate citizen concerns as political theater, it creates the appearance that the county is taking sides in a campaign. That is unacceptable. We do not control who runs for office. We will not allow serious documented issues to be brushed aside because an administrator finds them inconvenient. Election security is not a partisan talking point. It is a basic responsibility of local government, which each of you have been elected to represent. We continue to urge this board to support a simple, common sense step, appoint a sergeant at arms for the full early voting period on election day. This would give election staff the support they clearly needed in 2024 and help prevent a repeat of the chaos that was documented. We ask that you be prepared to fund this measure in the auditor's budget and strongly encourage the auditor to move forward with a sergeant at arms to protect the vote. We're ready to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next three speakers all have the same subject: Marcia Ritten, Dennis Letha, Rita Letha on the rumble strips on County Road 20. If you guys could please consolidate your item.
Terry, did you not want to consolidate?
Never mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you for respecting the citizens' right to communicate with you through the open forum. I'm hoping that you will grace these people who put you into office with an extended time this morning because they're obviously concerned about a lot of stuff. I too am here for the multi-county voting ring that we have experienced in Sherburne County and the comments that County Administrator Bruce Messelt made to the Alpha News. Our concerns are grounded in the Sheriff's Office investigative report, interviews with election staff, and surveillance video from the Auditor's Office. Those records show double voting, large coordinated groups of 10 or more voters arriving together, translators repeatedly handling the applications and directing voters, voters appearing confused about the oath they are taking, and the election staff describing the environment as overwhelming and chaotic. These aren't rumors, Mr. Messelt. These are documented facts. Suggesting that citizens who bring forward verified problems are merely running a political stunt undermines the public confidence and insults the election workers who live through that chaos. It also creates the appearance that the county administration is taking sides in this auditor's race. We have no control over who runs for office, and legitimate citizen advocacy cannot be shut down because an administrator finds it inconvenient. We request that you appoint a sergeant at arms for the full early voting period and election day. This would give the election staff on-site support they needed in 2024 and help prevent a repeat of this disorder and chaos that occurred. We ask the board to prepare to fund this measure in the county auditor's budget if she moves forward with this. Election security, the safety of our poll workers, and the accuracy of our vote are not partisan issues. They are basic responsibilities of local government, and we urge you to treat them that way. I also wanted to tell you that we have people out in the hallway. They can't get in, of course, and also the live feed isn't online. So I don't know what happened there, but this isn't being recorded. So please accommodate the people who are here with extending the time. Thank you.
Hey, Terry. Terry, you need to state your name and address.
Terry Dickinson. I live in Waylands District.
We did announce the technology difficulties at the beginning of the meeting. The meeting is being recorded. It's just not live streamed. It's being recorded in an alternate way, and it will be posted when it's complete and ready.
Okay, so I think the next one was the topic was the 3 rumble strips. Can you guys consolidate for one for us, please?
No.
Good morning. My name is Marcia Ritten, and I live at 7458 54th Street Southeast. I struggled with what I wanted to say today. I debated whether to tell the story of a 19-year-old boy who was drafted in 1970, sent to Vietnam, fought in a war, and watched his friends die on April 1st. Or whether I should come here and give a speech due to the lack of response I received regarding the rumble strips. So today you're going to hear a little of both. That 19-year-old was my father. He answered his country's call without hesitation. He fought for the freedoms we enjoy today, including the right to stand before our elected officials and expect to be heard. Since June 8th at 4:36 p.m. when these rumble strips were installed, my life has changed. I have lost sleep every night. I've rearranged my bedroom, hoping to escape the noise. It didn't work. When I finally fell asleep and tried to make up for lost sleep during the day, I'm awakened again by the constant pounding of traffic crossing those rumble strips. I can no longer enjoy the peace and quiet of my own property. Instead, I listen to concrete trucks, semis, flatbeds, campers, pickups, trailers, heavy commercial traffic, day and night. Every axle, every tire, every pass creates another blast of noise. It never stops. On July 15th at 11:33 a.m., I watched the county conduct a study using a county truck. With respect, that is not the traffic creating this problem. The problem is the continuous heavy commercial traffic and trailers that use this road every day. I have done everything I know to do. I contacted Bruce as directed by Tanner. My father called Commissioner Gray, who blocked his calls, and we have still not received a response. I've also contacted the Minnesota Attorney General's office, who referred me to the Minnesota Department of Transportation. Their response acknowledged that rumble strips have been filled in elsewhere because of the impact on nearby residents, and they forwarded that information to the county engineer as well. This board has the ability to help a resident whose quality of life has been significantly affected. I have asked respectfully, and I have been patient. As I conclude, I want to share one final thought. If meaningful action is not taken to address these concerns, I am seriously considering a write-in campaign for Sherburne County Commissioner this fall. My goal is not politics for the sake of politics. My goal is to ensure that residents are heard, that public safety and quality of life are both respected, and that our county
I
government
think
remains
you might be waiting
accountable
on
to
the
the
lights
people
over there.
it serves.
Sorry.
Hold on.
Thank you.
I hope it, excuse me?
I said, go ahead and continue.
I hope it doesn't come to that. I would much rather see this issue resolved through cooperation and responsible leadership. But if my concerns cannot be heard from this podium, then perhaps they can be heard from a seat at this table. Thank you.
All right, who's next?
Next is going to be Dennis Letha or Rita Letha, if you choose to combine.
No. My name is Dennis Letha at 7353 75th Avenue South, East St. Cloud, Minnesota. I am that veteran, and I'm severely affected by this. It's obnoxious. Yesterday, I had a decibel meter and southeast wind, which was blowing towards the sound. I still had 64 decibels in front of my house. Today, I was wakened at 2:41, which is normally 3:31 by the same vehicle, driving 70 miles an hour, not like 30 or 40 when you did your test. We watched you do the test. You had vehicles sitting there by the road, and everyone slowed down because they seen you. And then you did your own tests. Little cars actually make just as much noise as a big truck, especially during the night when the test should be done when they're going 60, 70 miles an hour and over the speed limit. This morning, I clocked at 3:47 a.m. and 3:31 a.m., 62 decibels, and at 4:14, 62 decibels, and at 4:18, 59 decibels. And then something happened that never happened before, but it was at 6:15. I seen a truck coming. So I got out there and set the monitor out there, and it was 70 decibels with a car going beside a truck at the same time on the opposite lane. Since this has started, I've been to PA numerous times, and all they do is they raise my rating for PTSD from 40% in May to 50% in June and now 60% in July. And I'm unable to function, people. I have not mowed my lawn since the 24th of June. The weeds in my garden are over my head and I have very little activity. Please do something about those speed bumps. They need to be covered up. They're louder than any speed bumps in the county. There's no excuse for it. Thank you.
Yeah, we're at 5. What are are there remaining topics about budget?
So there are some topics about tax. There's 3 topics left. There's a topic on the flag, taxes, and County Road 80.
So I think we've got a hard stop at 9:30. I think what I'll do is we'll do that hard stop. We'll do that event. We'll come back and we'll do 5 more presentations. So it should be, I want to make sure, so we should do one for, so what are the 3 topics?
We would want to do the flag topic, County Road 80, and then the rest were all for taxes. So there's one individual speaking on the flag, one individual speaking on County Road 80, and the rest were all property tax.
Okay, so let's do this. So we'll have the one person speak to the flag, we'll have the one person speak to the County Road 80, and then we'll have 3 people speak to taxes so that we cover all the topics today. And what time do you think we'll be back, Bruce?
We should be back by 10 o'clock.
So we're going to take a 30-minute recess to do this event. We'll be back here at 10.
We planned this.
Listen, folks, I appreciate the concern. This is part of the agenda that has been planned for quite a while.
Yes.
And so we have to take this break for this closed meeting. We don't have a choice. We're going to take that break, but I'm trying to give everybody the opportunity to make sure that everybody speaks. It's going to be a 30-minute break, and then we'll be back here and we will start at 10, okay? All right.
Got 2 minutes left on the open forum and she can get up there.
All right,
Breaks at 9:30, get up there. Yes.
we are in recess.
Say.
ready to go? Let's go ahead and get started, all right? Oh, my mic's still on. I just left it on. Ready? All right, we're back in.
Okay. Okay. Next we have Gary Tonsager speaking on the flag.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chair. My name is Gary Tonsager. I live at 11156 193rd Avenue Northwest in Elk River. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about the flag, but I'm going to talk about everything that we've been talking about. It's more about just exactly what we're talking about today. Our taxes rising, the inability to be able to control our own future. When a country or group of people take over a territory, the first thing that they do is they raise their flag. That shows ownership. Think of it. We had the moon landing. What did we do? Of course, now we're on the moon, so that's good. Iwo Jima. That's probably one of the most famous pictures that we have here in the United States. We stake our territory. In 2023, a group of 13 unelected bureaucrats appointed by Tim Walz gave us the new flag that you see right behind you. That's not that one, but it used to be there. Thank you for taking that down. Appreciate it.
Yay.
I was here about a month ago. We had 4 legislators here talking about, in real honesty, and what Andrew said, that you go to the state legislature and people are actually hostile. They're hostile towards us. You know why? Because they were given that authority through that flag. The minute that flag was dropped, that was the authority given to them to be able to do whatever they want. And that's exactly what they're doing here in Sherburne County. So St. Paul says no to our needs because they have the right to do that, they say. Also, our property taxes. You know, I'm not here to talk about property taxes, but really talking about the flag is talking about property taxes. That's exactly what they're doing. They're taking over everything that we have, and they're doing it happily and without malice. So I think it's just important that we know that the legislation that was passed from the state capitol, that you only have to fly the flag at the state capitol from sunrise to sunset. Anywhere else, we don't have to fly that flag. So Sherburne County has the jurisdiction to be able to get rid of that flag and fly our old Minnesota state flag. In 1893, that flag was first passed by the state legislature. In 1957, it was passed, and in 1983, it was passed again. 3 times. This last version of the flag was never passed by our state legislature. So I want to just say that the flag means something. We need to stand behind it. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that that we fly the old flag here in Sherburne County. If everybody understands exactly what I'm saying, I hope you do, because what we see now is obvious, and what we need to do is take our flag back. Sherburne County has to pass that flag resolution and stand up. Exactly what we were talking about. We need to stand up and protest and fight back. Thank you.
You didn't even have this?
I did.
Okay, thanks.
By the way, Elk River passed it. 75% of the people in Elk River were for the new flag, or the old flag.
Thank you. Thanks, Gary.
Next we have Keith Larson speaking on County Road 80.
Okay, Keith Larson, 17001, 319th Avenue, Princeton. And I'll be the only one talking about this today, so this will be quick. I wanted to thank Julie Allstrand and Bracken for coming out to my place to talk about the road. And they gave me a lot of information and answered a lot of questions. So I appreciate that. And also to the commissioners that I've talked to at length about it. What I've learned is that County Road 80 probably shouldn't even be a county road because it's so short. It's just a 2-mile road. And I also learned that $1 million was offered to the township, to Blue Hill Township, to take over the road
And that would have fixed the road, including the paving of the west end, which is gravel right now. And then there would still be money left over for snow plowing and maintenance and that stuff for quite a while. But the township board decided not to do that. I'm not exactly sure why, but they said that they were advised by lawyers not to do it. But there's really no need for this extensive project that's really going to destroy the area. And what it's really going to do is create a shortcut between County Roads 5 and 3. And so people will be coming down 5, instead of going to the intersection with 3, they'll be cutting across our area, and now there'll be a lot more traffic and higher speeds and everything like that. So I guess if I were the one to plan this road, I would recommend lowering the speed limit to probably 40 miles an hour, which is, that's pretty common on other roads that go through residential areas. And then raising up the west end of the road, because there's been a problem there with groundwater, and that destroyed the pavement that was there at one time. So raising it up and then paving that west end, and then also raising, but not widening. Widening is the big problem. That's what's going to destroy everybody's property. So raising up but not widening, and repairing the east end, which is really just normal maintenance, and then treating the road as a neighborhood road, like other nearby developments and areas like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so we've got 3 speakers.
And we have, 4 people signed up on the item that are left on the list for this.
So can we consolidate that down to 3? Well, let's start with the first one, and you guys.
First person who has signed up is Kathy Zebarth. We also have Steve Parker, Bruce Ekman, and Sandy M. I don't know. I can't.
Meredith, I'll take mine off if I think everybody else has said enough.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. And like I said, you will have another opportunity.
My name is Kathy Zebarth. I live at 16280 227th Avenue. I've lived in Sherburne County for 31 years, and I'm saddened to see that this state has become the laughing stock of the nation. As my family and I traveled to South Dakota this summer, every person that we met made a comment about having to live in this state. We agreed. This speaks to what Gary just was talking about. As to this budget increase that you discussed today, that we're talking about today, I want to speak to it. With the amount of fraud that has been uncovered in the state and so much more that hasn't been found, I would find it impossible to believe that there's no fraud in this county. What have you done to uncover it? What have you done to get restitution? That's one thing that's not talked about in our state. Yep, they find the people who's took $300 million. Where's that money? I think you're responsible to find that in this county. What measures are in place to make sure this doesn't continue in this county? I had a whole paragraph on that act, but I'll go past that since you have no choice. I think we should, but I had no say in the corruption of state government that gave billions of dollars away to illegal immigrants, because I will say illegal immigrants. But I will say that I am not in favor of this tax hike to support people with those same people to get better programs, aids, or assistance than my neighbors would qualify for, or when legal citizens can't use these programs. This is wrong beyond measure. Additionally, before you raise our taxes, you need to make sure that every job for every employee in this county is necessary, valuable, and viable. Cut waste before you make us pay more money. Also, not returning phone calls is disrespectful and unacceptable. And I support that veteran. How dare you? He went to die. My son is in the military, and if he died for or got injured for something, we need to respect that. So if you don't return phone calls or emails, you should not be on this board. Thank you.
Thanks much. Who's next?
Next we would have Steve Parker.
Yeah. So, does someone want to speak in Steve's place?
Mine.
Okay. Are you speaking in Steve's place? Are you okay with that? Since you've signed up?
Yes. That's right, you did sign up.
You can go ahead, but if it doesn't, like, as far as I'm concerned, what.
Things I'd be surprised.
Yeah, because you can always call again.
Hi, my name is Donovan O'Connelly. I live at 24940 96th Street Northwest. I'm actually Steve Parker's neighbor. So we heard today how part of this tax hike is actually not the fault of this board. So I do want to at least acknowledge that before we go too much further. They have their unfunded state mandates that our state legislature has forced upon us. We also need to get proactive at the state. It's great that we're all here. This is fantastic. But the state is the problem and the main reason for these hikes. That being said, I agree with the previous speaker that we need to make sure that every single dime is accounted for. I personally have seen a $500 increase in my mortgage from when I bought my house in 2019 at 20-some years old. I am 30 and I'm already worried about losing my home because of tax hikes, insurance increases, and everything else. Every single dime is being pulled out of my pocket, not just by the county, by taxes from everything else, from inflation screwing all of our paychecks. I know all of us here feel it. I'm sure they do as well. So we need to try and give them a little bit of grace. That being said, I appreciate that you are open and honest. I also appreciate that you are willing to have another meeting in the evening. I apologize for some of the earlier hostilities. A couple of you guys seem to have been accosted a little bit. But I want to make it clear that we want to be heard and we want you to cut as much as you can, truly. Not because we don't want programs funded. I was gutted by the fact that the Parks Department lost $4 million to try and help balance this. But it's becoming unsustainable, like you said. And if you help organize, I'll be there at the Capitol with you, so please. I think all 5 of you commissioners, all 5, should be helping with that. Because I truly think that if you, as elected government officials, act as leaders, the rest of us will be able to follow. In 1776, when we founded this country, we dumped tea in the harbor over 3% taxes. And we're talking about a 12% just on property taxes. Our founders would have started guillotining people. Do not commit violence. I'm not advocating for violence in any way. But thank you.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just saying thank you about the
Violence thing, yeah.
how's this? Okay.
You have 40 seconds left.
Good enough.
As long as you can hear me from
Who's our next?
So next would be Bruce Ekman.
Bruce?
We're saying here, I'm gonna get tired.
All right.
Here we go.
Sandy's gonna take your time.
My name is Sandy Meredith. I live at 20687 Quincy Street Northwest. So if you're going on 33 East, opposite of the place Ted's Gravel Company, come around that big 25-mile-an-hour curve, please go 25 miles an hour because they want to put a new road through there, which is a big waste of money because the road already goes back toward now. But they're going to put a new road through there, and that's going to cost a lot of money. You could cut that out of the budget, but they're going to do it because people are on their phone or whatever and they end up in that little ditch. Okay, anyway, back to taxes. I am a single person paying taxes. I have been since I bought my property in 2012. I paid $153,500 for 12 acres, 2,500 square foot home, a barn, and a shed. Okay, my taxes were right at $3,000, under $3,000 back in 2012. Today, as a single person paying my taxes, they're $7,000. Okay, single person. My homeowner's insurance is $3,000. Okay, I was a firefighter from Minneapolis. I was a school teacher from Minneapolis. I still substitute teach in Zimmerman and Elk River, okay? You have to cut where you can cut. And I know the mandates, people, your legislatures get voted in. We do have to get together. I don't care. You don't have to get together to protest. You can call every single legislature as soon as you get out of here. House, Senate, whoever. You need to start calling those people. But they unanimously passed in the House. Everybody voted on the African American Act, which goes to cover more than African American, covers many children. Okay, unanimously. Not one person said, no, hey, this isn't a good idea. So if we don't talk to our legislatures, and it by law, you may get caught up in the courts and think you can sue, and maybe you can, maybe you can't. But if you can't, okay, we have to talk to our legislatures. We have to stop this. If they don't hear from us, they think they can just sit down there and do whatever they want. And trust me, some of them have an agenda that's just personal. It's their own personal. Oh, I don't like jails, or I don't like people being locked up, so I'm just going to vote against everything else. Please call your legislatures, talk to them, okay? Please cut wherever you can. Don't build that road through there. They don't need it. And you know what? We have to come together, okay? I'm half Republican, I'm half Democrat. Amen. Why am I half and half? Because nobody's 100% right. Where's common sense? I'm 64 years old. I'll have Medicare next year, okay? I've had a job since I've been 13. I've paid into Social Security since I was 13. I grew up in Oregon with the farmers, okay? I've worked ever since I've been 13. Sometimes I had 4 jobs, okay? I've paid my way. I expect other people that can pay their way to pay their way. No free handouts for everybody. Nobody handed me anything. I paid for my own college. That's what I have to say, and call your legislature and let's get together. You can have my phone number, you can have whatever. I'm there. Let's go.
Thank you. Is there one more?
The other one wasn't here. They left.
So was that the last one?
That was the last one.
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. We've got an agenda that we're going to go through as part of our regular agenda. You guys should have copies of that. As I said, we don't have anything, we don't have any votes on the budget today. What I would say is there's a lot of passion, obviously, around this topic, specifically around the budget topic. We can't lose that passion. As I mentioned earlier, I want to make it clear, it's not just me every single one of the members of the board, as well as Administrator Messalt, has been down at the Capitol talking to our legislatures and testifying in front of committees about what is happening with these mandates. So I want to make it clear that all of us have been down there doing that work. We will go to I'm losing my mind. We're going to announcements in a second, and we'll set up that time. But
if you want to move up announcements before folks leave, we could try to set it right now. So it's your chair's purview to move it up if you don't want to.
Isn't that next on the agenda? Oh, it's after the consent. We can. I think what let's do. So I went over in the break what I wanted to bring up. There's more detail that I want to talk about, but we can do that at this meeting that we're going to set up now. So why don't we move up? Do I need a vote to move it up? Okay.
No.
Then my discretion, let's move up announcements and let's set up a date. We did, while you were still down, we did a show of hands on whether
Evenings, yeah.
it should be an evening meeting, and we want to do it as an evening.
If the board wants to look at their calendars, the two I flagged is possibilities for one or maybe even 2 meetings, Tuesday, the 25th and Thursday, the 27th.
Okay.
August, yes. Yeah. Also, just a note that the October 6th board meeting is an evening meeting as well, but you wanted the meetings in August. So I don't know if either of those dates or both of those dates look good.
I like the 27th. Anybody else?
I'm getting there.
Good.
Rhiannon, how does that look for you?
I will make it work.
26 or 27?
27.
I said 25 or 27, Tuesday or Thursday. Usually Wednesday
Fine
nights.
with me. Either one are
Either
fine.
one,
Let's do a Thursday if that's okay.
Greg?
Yeah, I don't have any evening meetings. All my meetings start at 7 a.m. that day, so I'm in pretty good shape for evening, I guess.
So we'll schedule for Thursday, August 27th. I might suggest something. It's totally up to the board, but maybe we want to have two, one here and maybe one at the History Center so that it's more central. Because there might be folks in the western part that don't want to travel. Is that an option the board wants to consider or just have one?
Sure.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I think having two, one is an evening and one is a daytime to accommodate as many people as we can to be able to come out and voice their concerns and hear more information.
Why don't we do this as a suggestion? If we want to do it that way, why don't we do the 27th as an evening meeting here?
Yep.
And then we could do another meeting at the History Center during the day.
Okay, I'll send out a doodle poll for that one then.
Okay, so for sure, mark on your calendars the 27th of this month here for an evening meeting.
Starting at,
What time?
6:37, whatever the board and the community wants.
You want to do it at 6?
6 is fine.
Okay, so,
Is 6 going to work for everybody? I mean, are you going to be able to get home from work and get here by 6 o'clock?
or 6,
That's always the question.
that's a good point.
How about 7?
Sorry?
How are we gonna accommodate
oh, we have to.
volume in this room if we do it here?
We can set it up so that we can split it. If it's bigger than this, we've got another large conference room
It will be bigger.
and we can split it between the two rooms.
How many people are you talking?
And also as an open house, it's, we won't have set presentations so people can come and go.
Right.
Between the two rooms, we can, accommodate well over 100 folks. So I think typically, I mean, those are two we've got this room and we've got the Maple Room, which is the largest conference room we have in the building. So I think between the two, we'll be able to accommodate, in theory.
So 6:30, you want to split the difference?
Yeah, let's do 6:30.
Okay.
On the 27th. Make sure to send in your questions ahead of time. And then we'll get that going. And then that would give everybody the opportunity to have some continued dialogue on this. Okay?
In regards to space, the History Center is even smaller. There's never.
I can check the community center in Becker, someplace central. So yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Hey, Mr.
All right.
Chair,
Yes.
are we going to be also having a presentation to show what it is that we are looking at for costs and stuff? So then everybody.
I think my plan is I'll work with you and with the administrator and we can come up with a brief presentation.
We have our truth and taxation presentation that we do in December. We can try to get that ready for August.
And there may be some additional points that we want to make because of what we just talked about with the uniqueness of this year. So we'll work together on coming with something that gives some background as well. Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, just one thing I do want to mention when we're talking about the board and the board doing additional planning for things. When we're not in a formal meeting or a posted meeting or like the posted, this open house, something that's been posted on the internet. When he's talking about he's going to work with Rayanne and Commissioner, or excuse me, Administrator Messel, that's the maximum number of people that can be involved, right? 3 of us cannot meet outside of this meeting and discuss any part of business. That's Minnesota state law. So when we do these plannings and we do this other stuff, we do that inside the meeting. So that's one thing that as I've been out, spent 4 days at the county fair, been out talking to people, a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, well, why don't you guys get together in between the meetings and figure this out? Well, if we did that, we'd violate state law and you really don't want that done. You want government to be discussed in a public forum where it's recorded. You don't want government done behind closed doors. So it kind of slows things down in some ways, but it also protects you from having a group of people who are doing closed door government, which we absolutely positively reject here in Sherburne County. So.
All right, so with that, let's go ahead and continue on with announcements.
I think I'll forego any announcements so we can get back on track for you. You have a presentation from Micah today, so.
Okay.
Yeah, that.
Then let's, then our next item would be the consent agenda. So I have not been told of anything to be removed from the consent agenda.
Just stay and watch.
Hey, you guys can watch all the boring stuff too. Thanks again, everybody, for coming. I appreciate everybody's passion on this. All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. All right, any discussion? No discussion? Roll call vote. Rhiannon?
Aye.
Gary? Aye. Greg? Aye. Brad? Aye. Andrew? Aye. Consent passes.
Okay.
Always good with text.
All right, we're done with announcements, point recognition. Okay. Regular agenda, item 7.1, approval of an interim use permit.
Good morning, commissioners. So this is from the July Planning Commission meeting. First item was Husin Alaf, property owner Irvin and Rayanne Danielowski, requesting an interim use permit for a business selling vehicles, boats, and farm implements, Oriental Auto LLC. This is located at 18005 198th Avenue Northwest in Big Lake Township on 0.65 acres in the Orderly Annexation Industrial District. Planning Commission recommended approval with the 12 conditions and the findings of fact.
You're looking for a motion to approve? So moved. Second. Okay, with,
Hold on, we gotta get the lights. There's somebody hit the light switch.
they're coming back on. As far as discussion goes, is it my understanding that Commissioner Delanowski is abstaining from this vote?
I believe she's indicating yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Wait, Chair,
yeah,
can you reiterate who had the first and who had the second?
I have no idea.
I moved. Second.
Yep. All right, any discussion?
No, I just need, the only thing that was really brought up on this one at the planning, because I went this time, was them changing how they do their parking, and they do have a very nice parking plan in there. So this is going to be a good deal.
All right, so I'll take a roll call vote. Rhiannon, you're abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I vote yes.
I vote yes. Good.
All right, motion passes. Item 7.2.
David Jurek, property owner Brandon and Cassandra Kozak, request residential preliminary and final simple plat of Moeller Oaks, which is one lot. This is in Palmer Township, taking off a portion of a 56-acre parcel in the agricultural district. Planning Commission recommended approval of the simple plat with the 7 conditions listed.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, we'll take a roll call vote. Rhiannon?
Aye.
Gary? Aye. I vote aye. Greg votes aye.
Aye.
And that brings us up to 7.3. Thanks, Lan. Appreciate it. That brings us up to 7.3, presentation by Micah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Nathan is here. Thanks for being patient. And I think he's got some other staff members with, so you want to take the podium, Nathan, and welcome.
Sure thing. Thank you, commissioners. I'm just here to, I'm here with staff and we'll kind of introduce ourselves as we go through, but go over some of the issues we see coming up at the Capitol and coming up in 2027. You all are familiar with MICA, but we're a group of 17 counties, voluntary organization. They're really working on those statewide issues, not necessarily county-specific issues, but issues that are going to bring our membership together at the Capitol, as well as trying to make sure that we're bringing staff together to talk to one another, to problem solve, see if there's issues that are coming up in Sherburne, or also coming up in St. Louis County or Benton County or one of the suburban counties. And so, of course, during the session, we're at the Capitol every day and in committee and providing weekly updates and monthly board meetings, but also during the interim, we're meeting with legislators, we're participating in task forces, and we're convening those staff meetings as well. I did want to just kind of start off with talking a little bit about property taxes. I'd say that from 2015 to 2024 at the Capitol, property taxes were a less prominent issue, but they've really increased in the last few years, particularly as levies statewide have increased. And I do have some data here kind of showing net tax capacity, which is essentially looking at like you're looking at your taxable market value and applying the tax rate to it. Okay, so commercial, of course, tax higher than residential and things like that. What this data shows you is, of course, as you all know, Sherburne is much heavier residential and more reliant on residential property than your typical state county. In a lot of ways, it resembles the collar counties a little, the suburban counties a little bit more there. And so why is that significant? It's significant because any type of tax shift is going to be felt more acutely by homeowners, because there's not as much commercial or industrial or apartment property to pick up that slack. Of course, Sherburne historically also has a much higher share of public utility tax capacity than the rest of the state. You can see that there in the data. I know that we've had lots of, you all have had lots of conversations about that as well in the past. I should also say, if you ever have any questions, just feel free to interrupt me or any as we go along. If we're looking at the estimated market value change, this is 2026 data. There's if you look, the statewide change is relatively flat, of course. Commercial property in particularly the last number of years has been at or near 0% or maybe a little bit maybe a little bit below. There's a big increase in industrial and ag land for Sherburne there, but like I showed in the previous slide, that's a smaller share of your tax pie, essentially, but you'd still rather have an increase than a decrease, of course. And this is just a one-year snapshot, but it does kind of just show that the really large growth that the state was experiencing statewide a few years ago across essentially all property types has really leveled off. And so this slide, instead of taking that one-year snapshot, is essentially looking at, okay, since 2021, because sometimes values might spike up or down depending on a new building or something like that, new construction 1 year to the next, trying to show what's the average change been like since 2021. Now, these numbers are much higher because they include that 2023 year where values jumped statewide by an average of 17%, higher for some types of properties and of course in some areas than others. But this shows, again, Sherburne is more heavily residential, but other than public utility property has seen that those values rise above average over the last 5 years when compared to the rest of the state. I did want to talk about a few issues that we're dealing with, particularly this interim in regards to task forces. So first is the Human Services Systems Modernization Advisory Group. So this was created in law this May as part of the $90 million that got appropriated for IT modernization statewide. This group has representatives from both agencies and counties. And the idea behind this, and the first meeting is going to be sometime before September 15th, but probably in those first 2 weeks of September, is that there's more oversight of the spending of these dollars than there has been in the past. And the counties are involved, not just in getting report outs from state agencies about like, okay, how is this money spent, but providing direction as well and trying to prioritize what types of projects are the most urgent. And where should we be pushing the state to spend these dollars? In addition to this modernization advisory group, which has 4 county representatives, 3 state agency representatives, and a tribal representative, there's also a group that we've worked on with the other county associations that's much larger, that's just county folks, both commissioners and staff, that are meeting on a kind of ad hoc basis to inform the county representatives of, okay, here's what we're hearing on the ground at our county about what we should be focusing and prioritizing, so that we're really having kind of a statewide approach in this advisory group, rather than just, okay, a few people representing their own county. There's also the duty disability work group. This is sometimes referred to as the PTSD issue. This was created in May by the legislature as well. They've been looking at a couple of different options. This is another pensions issue. So in 2025, the legislature put into law a requirement that your health insurance, if you claim duty disability, is capped at 60 months. Previously, it had been guaranteed through age 65. A number of local governments have been experiencing an issue where sometimes there's someone that is relatively new in their job, ends up claiming a duty disability, and then the local government is on the hook for those costs for an extended amount of time. The idea behind this work group, which is to try to identify a solution to that funding problem, because in 2023, the legislature appropriated $105 million to make sure that those costs aren't an unfunded mandate on local governments, but that was a one-time appropriation. And that money is going to run out likely sometime in 2028. So the 2027 is really the time to see if we can find a sustainable solution to this approach. Those meetings have been going on since June. And there are representatives and senators involved in that process too from the very beginning, which is making it more, there's more time being spent talking about, okay, well, what are our options and which are politically practical from the beginning. So that's been helpful in some ways. But this is a really, this is a sticky issue, and we've been working with the public employee groups as well, that we have representatives and they do on this group. There is consensus that something needs to be done, because essentially right now what's happening is the increased costs due to this that are unanticipated compared to where we were 7 years ago are really draining the health of the police and fire pension fund than it would be otherwise. So it's tougher for that fund to achieve parity with some of the other funds, given that the health of their fund is so much lower. Another issue, this is a property tax task force. A few bills moved during the legislative session. This actually was not signed into law, but the Department of Revenue decided they want to kind of take the initiative here and start conversations around taking a holistic look at our property tax system and what could change, and really do it from the taxpayer perspective. There have been previous looks at, okay, how should our property tax system change, but they've been more from the administrative perspective, maybe around class consolidation or something like that. We have more than 55 property tax classifications. That is unique amongst state property tax systems. That's a very high number. The first meeting of this group is going to be August 13th. The idea is that they'll be meeting for a few months and issue a report probably sometime in late November, early December. Again, we were involved in the task force language that was moving through the legislature. We'll be participating in this process as well. It's not totally clear what they view their purview as, like how big a scope they're trying to achieve. But again, I think that the focus is more on property taxes paid than pure administration of the system.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Who makes up that task force?
Well, who makes up that task force? That's a great question because this isn't something that came from the law. It's a little bit more difficult to answer questions about it. The Department of Revenue is kind of, building the ship as they fly it. But in my talks with the commissioner, I've been told that basically anybody that was named in the task force bills this past year will be included in some form. So that includes county and city, state associations. It includes the Minnesota Farmers Union, Minnesota Farm Bureau Federation, the Chamber of Commerce, the Minnesota Business Partnership, as well as we include assessors and the Minnesota Association of County Officers as well. Try and make sure that solutions can be practical from an administrative perspective. Those are some that I remember off the top of my head. I'm sure there are more that I'm forgetting, but that's just a sample at least.
I'd just like to know how we can get some input in. I worked with Representative Novotny on trying to replicate the Florida homestead law, which was adopted similarly by Texas. And it fundamentally prevents people from getting taxed out of their homes because it limits how much a property tax can grow on a homesteaded home. And obviously it didn't go anywhere in the legislature, but I would like to keep that in front of this group because I think Florida's had this law for 20 years, I think, and it's proved very successful. So I'd like to make sure that stays in front of that group.
Yeah, that's good to know. I'm sure, there've been a lot of discussions at that, and there were at the legislature this past year at the Capitol. And I'm sure that'll be part of the discussion. So, but we don't have a lot of detail yet on when and how they're meeting, just because this isn't something that went into law. But happy to keep you all posted on that. Any other questions before I turn it back to staff, and I'll come back and close us out when that time comes. All right. Well, I think next up is Amber on transportation.
Wonderful to see everybody. I'm Amber Backus, the transportation liaison for MICA. Good to be here this morning. First, I wanted to update you on a funding opportunity. If you recall, there was a significant bonding bill that passed the legislature this past session, $1.2 billion, with a good share going to transportation. One of the beneficiaries was the local road improvement program, a competitive grant program that counties and cities and townships can apply for to do road improvements in 3 categories. If you have to pay the share of a trunk highway project, if you have a route of regional significance, or if you have a rural safety highway project that you are working on, you could apply for these funds. MnDOT has announced that the application process is open September 1st and will be through November 25th, but they still have to figure out a few details. They usually set targets for how much is split between the different groups, and there will be an LRIP advisory committee later this month to determine how much counties get, how much state aid cities, and how much non-state aid cities and townships should get, as well as the split that they set between the 7-county metro and greater Minnesota. So stay tuned for that, but I did want to make you aware of this. I'm sure Andrew's already on top of it for you, but if there are some county roads here that would be eligible for the monies, encourage you to apply. Secondly, I just wanted to give some predictions about what I see coming back this next legislative session. Of course, things could change with the elections, but I think some of these will be in play regardless of the outcome of that. You'll hear a little more from Nathan in a bit about the budget outlook for the state, and it's not great moving forward. So I think first and foremost, we're concerned about a tax on transportation dollars, specifically those that are statutorily dedicated to roads and bridges versus constitutionally, because those are always a play. The legislature could grab those back and use those for something else. So specifically the sales tax on auto parts, which in 23-24, the legislature decided to statutorily dedicate to roads and bridges and phase that in over time. We already saw in in the 25 session, an effort to slow that dedication to roads and bridges down to deal with the general fund issues, and that could be in play again this coming session. The other pot of revenue for roads and bridges we're concerned about are license tab fees. There's a lot of folks that have had concerns about how high those were increased in 2023. If you recall this past session, part of the global agreement was to give a temporary reduction in those tab fees for the calendar year 2027. But that $250 million cut is backfilled by general fund dollars. But going forward, if the legislature decides to reduce those tab fees, we're not sure how they would make up those funds, or if they would be able to, since there's not going to be a lot of general fund revenue out there. And just there's so much outstanding need for Minnesota's transportation infrastructure, I think $20 billion over the next 20 years, that losing any of those funds is going to be difficult to maintain the roads and build new ones for the citizens of Minnesota. And then there's a couple of issues that were introduced last year or that we've been working on that are unresolved that I wanted to highlight. One is the issue of the greenhouse gas transportation offset and mitigation program. You've heard me talk about this for a while now. That law was enacted in 23 and then with some tweaks in 24, but MnDOT is still in the process of implementing it. They have figured out how to assess greenhouse gas emissions, but they are still working on guidance to tell sponsors of trunk highway projects how to mitigate those. And there are still a lot of concerns from the county perspective. In particular, the cost of mitigation MnDOT estimates could be 30 to 50% of the project. So add that on to already expensive projects. And then, the sources for that mitigation aren't controlled by transportation. Things like zoning changes. And that's where it seems that the biggest bang for the buck is to have higher density, and that might be great in the metro area, but how does that work in greater Minnesota? And then on top of that, how does MnDOT or a county that's sponsoring a project compel a city or another county to change their zoning laws to help offset greenhouse gas emissions? So there's a lot to still be figured out there. We will continue to work on that and hopefully find some changes that will be respectful of reducing climate change, but also work for those that are delivering road construction projects around the state. And then that bill has been the model for sort of anti-road and bridge folks to try to put some other conditions on highway building, that if you want to have a highway expansion project, you have to have a maintenance plan and funding for that 6 years out, which is completely impractical and would stall most projects from going forward. Or another version of this would halt a road construction expansion project until you've looked at all alternatives and done more with transit. And I think if there is a Democrat trifecta, again, these bills will have more legs than they did in this last biennium. So we'll be watching that very closely. And with that, I will pause there and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Nancy Selesky, and I handle both public health and human services for MICA, and it's a pleasure being here this morning. Nathan already referenced the IT modernization project. I just want to mention that we had 3 priorities going in the health and human services area going into the session, and that was one of them. The other 2 related to both SNAP and MAFPA CWDA. We did make some progress in terms of funding there, but it was one-time funding, so we'll be revisiting those issues next year. So starting with SNAP, despite the fact that this is a federal program, counties have been paying an administrative cost share related to that, and that is being increased from 50 to 75% on October 1st of 2026. This is estimated to cost counties about $35 million annually. The legislature did again provide one-time funding of $10.7 million. It's allocated to counties based on their proportional share of SNAP admin costs, but we do need ongoing funding. So we will be at the 27 legislature again. The other issue is a new cost share, and this relates to the benefit itself, the SNAP benefit itself, effective July 1 of 2027. So next year, the federal government is requiring states to pick up a percentage of the benefit, and it's determined by the most recent payment error rate. And that can range anywhere from 5 to 15% of the cost, depending on that error rate. Estimating the cost right now from $0 to $138 million. These errors, I just want to mention, can be as simple as a typographical error or a client not returning paperwork that is counted in that error space. So again, going to the legislature, asking for help on that as well.
Quick question on that. Two things on that. On the error rate, if the error rate is below the legislated threshold, do the county still pay 5% or does that go to 0?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, I believe that goes to 0.
Okay, so the 5 to 15% is the penalty if the error rate is above the threshold. The other thing that I'm hearing is that the modernization goes hand in hand with the error rate, because what I'm hearing is that Maxis is unable to. We can't get down to the error rate we need to using Maxis. It is simply incapable of doing that. Is that a fair assessment?
Mr. Chair, I would say yes. And Commissioner, yes, I mean, yeah, they're totally related, and the systems aren't going to be upgraded that quickly. So, yeah, the effective date of this is coming up far before we'll have the technology that we totally need for it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on this. And I brought this up before, the SNAP benefit right here, SNAP recipients fall 13% nationwide. And so this is before all the policies get into effect. I said that when you make it harder, we're going to have less people doing this. So the error rate should be less, just based on a percentage of the 13% of people nationwide are not even, we haven't got to the work requirement part yet. We haven't even got to the hard part. We're at the beginning. And it's already reducing. And so when I took this, when I brought this up before, maybe you guys, maybe other people on staff blew me off, but the number 13% today, by the time we're done with this, the number is going to be way lower.
I think that, Brad, the issue is that, let's say we have 1,000 people on SNAP now.
Mhm.
The error rate is, let's say, 10%. If you have 100 people on SNAP and there's still an error rate of 10%, it's still the same rate percentage. You have fewer people applying, but it doesn't mean the ones who aren't applying are the ones who cause the errors. The errors in the system, in the technology. So even if you have 100 people applying or 1,000 people applying, the error rate will actually be the same.
Yeah, but I think to characterize, I think the point is that the error rate may stay the same. The total benefits paid out, if the number of people applying reduce, would be less. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
In general, it will fall. I get what you're saying, that there's only 100 and the 10% rate, we're gonna have 10 people that are a problem. We should be able to, and this will come up later in my conversation, we have over 100 health and human service workers working from home. Drive around. This county's not that big. Every one of us has driven around this county. You need me to collect some documents from somebody? If we have to collect documents from 10 people and we have 100 employees, how we have a 0 error rate? I mean, I have a 0 error rate. All of us have 0 error rates on our income taxes when we file them to the IRS, or we would be audited. And so it's mind-blowing to me. I'll leave the rest of the topic for, I'm good.
Yeah, no,
I just started.
Yeah, no,
I
think that was helpful to understand where you're coming from. What you're saying is if there's fewer people applying, we can spend more staff time chasing down the error rates.
They're already working from home all over the county. They're not in Elk River in the government services building where they're supposed to be here to help people. They're working from home.
Well, that's a different topic.
Either
way, what I want to understand though is you're thinking if there's fewer people applying for SNAP, county staff can work with fewer people to reduce the error rate. That's what you were saying. Is that correct?
No, you're changing it. It's.
All right.
Bring it up later. I'm good. Thank you. Keep going. Yep.
The next item I wanted to mention was.
Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to also comment how important it is for them to accelerate a timeline of getting rid of Maxa and getting something in there that is modernization and will work to help us do all of these needs in a more updated fashion. They need to really work on getting that updated. I know it's gonna cost money, but in the long run, it's gonna save money.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, I think that has come up at the level of the counties, that the informal group that Nathan was referencing earlier, that is one of the top priorities. So we recognize that it needs to be done, absolutely. The next item that we worked on was MAFA CWDA. This is something that the legislature also appropriated one-time funding for. Each county will receive a minimum of $100,000 based on an existing statutory formula. And that formula you can see there is based on the number of children residing, the 25% of the screened-in reports, and 25% of the open child protection cases in the county. It must be used to address staffing and services needed for child protection. There is a prohibition on supplanting existing funding. And I do want to point out that this is in addition to existing law, which has been on the books for some time, which has a separate allocation floor of $75,000 per county. Because there was no...
Ariane, can you mute your mic?
I had mine muted.
Okay, we'll mute it here.
Because there was no funding allocated to the department, DCYF, the decision on case reviews was bumped until July 1st of 2027. Our position is and remains, and we've been working on this for a long time, is that the state has to take over the case reviews. The working group related to this does expire in December of 26.
Okay. Nancy, on that note, Sherburne County's allocation of that 15 million is 150,000. Our best estimate is we're talking upwards of $1.5 million increase in the budget to cover the mandates from MAPA. So a tenth. Is that kind of the number you're hearing from other counties as well? I mean, 15 million sounds like a lot, but statewide, it seems like a drop in the bucket. Clearly something no larger than 10% of the estimated costs.
Right, Mr. Chair. When we were working on this last year, we were estimating between $60 and $80 million cost statewide. So you can see that there's a difference there. That's, again, what we were able to get this year. We need to be able to make our case for the situation. I know that you all heard from your taxpayers a little bit ago, and this is much of these increases are related to health and human services mandates.
Based on the feedback that I've seen from other counties, it looks like it's running somewhere between $1 million to $5 million in the largest counties, is the estimated cost. So I've seen the estimate that you just discussed. I think my personal opinion, just based on that analysis, is that's low. If you do the math based on what the individual counties, I think, are estimating, I think we're looking at close to $120 to $150 million to implement statewide with $15 million allocated. I would expect that's 10% of what it's actually going to cost in a single year.
Absolutely. A lot of issues.
Yep.
Next item is long-term services and supports. The 2025 legislature established a task force, an advisory task force, to identify savings to reduce cost growth in this area. Counties and providers have been working on trying to find $178 million. This task force is very large. It does have 6 county members, 2 from MICA, 2 from AMC, and 2 from MAXA. And then it's also a number of providers, consumers, and their family members. They started their work in September of 2025. The report is due in December 1st of 2026. I would just mention that the legislature this last year did book some savings in this area, although they did not give credit to the counties toward that $178 million. That task force continues to meet. They've come up with a list of ideas in terms of finding savings for this. Some are related to nursing homes, some are related to waivered services. They're supposed to be voting on this very soon. And again, without any kind of action on these recommendations, we're looking at another cost shift in July of 2027 on this.
And I think this is more commonly referred to as disability waivers, correct?
Correct.
So, and I think the number that we're looking at on the county's 800,000.
2-year, 890,000 is what you said?
2 years, yeah.
Yes, okay. Just making sure we got that on the recording.
Yeah, 2 years, $890,000 of additional cost shifted to the counties.
And that would be about, 1.25% on our current levy, probably more closer to 1.5.
Some of this stuff is just important. Just added once again for the recording for people, because people were here asking about this, and I've been talking to people virtually every day about these issues. These were top priorities, not only for Micah, but for AMC. This was what was brought to the legislature. The things we were asking them, the primary things we were asking them to fix were Maxis and the Act, and those were simply not responded to. So, and it's not just been this year, it's been the past couple of years. So, it's very accurate and of course up to date, and that's what we're actually looking at. And until the legislature responds in some way, shape, or form to these requests, we're not going to have any sort of relief at county level.
Not to steal your thunder, but if I just summarize the impact specifically to Sherburne County, the act, as we refer to
I think the act is, do we call it the act?
I do.
Okay. See, you're being too nice. I call it Mathpequota.
I know, and I can't say that very often. But Mathpequota is going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood, round numbers, around $2 million. Disability waivers is going to cost $800,000. SNAP is going to cost $600,000 next year and $1.2 million the year after that. So in those programs alone, we're talking 5 to 6 points of our levy. That's the point we were trying to make earlier. So that, and I think the challenge is when we talk about things like disability waivers, fundamentally the way it was done to balance the state budget. So they shifted the cost to the counties. That's the accounting trick that they're doing.
Well, you left out Medicaid though, too.
I didn't even talk about Medicaid, and I certainly, and it's the same thing, that it's outside of Health and Human Services, but it's the same thing with community corrections.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pure accounting, shifting the cost to the county so that, to balance the state budget, and that's what's so frustrating. Anyway, I'm sorry. Yep, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. That's what I have. I just wanted to mention your staff that we work very closely with, both Amanda Larson and Nicole Ruoff are very much involved in our committees, establishing our legislative platforms, et cetera, very much involved with the associations and an asset not only to you, but county statewide. Just wanted to mention it. They're a phone call away.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is John Paul Yates. I help cover environment issues for Micah. Filling in for my coworker Rachel Cisnochik, who you've maybe seen before, and she's out on maternity leave. I'm just going to cover 3 things on the environment front due to time. The first is around waste to energy. So this spring, the Public Utilities Commission issued a ruling that allowed for life cycle analysis to be used to include burning of solid waste. And following this ruling, there was a motion made by some environmental groups for the Public Utilities Commission to reconsider the ruling. So they considered that motion at their July meeting last month, and there was brief discussion, but they rejected that motion. So their previous ruling will stand. Additionally, as it relates to waste to energy, we saw last session legislation was introduced to restrict the use of the HERC, the Hennepin Environmental Recovery Center, the otherwise known as the incinerator, in Hennepin County. And I think depending on the outcome of the election, waste to energy will continue to be an issue that MICA members need to continue to defend.
Absolutely.
The second issue I want to talk about is related to SCORE grant funding. This is an issue that Micah has supported in the past, and I think will continue to seek legislation to dedicate a portion of the solid waste tax collections to SCORE grants. These grants are used by counties to fund programs related to recycling, composting, household hazardous waste, et cetera.
Do you have a slide on this, or do you want to advance? I don't know if you.
Sorry, yes.
That's okay.
Oh, I'm going the wrong way. There we are. Sorry
about that.
Nope, no problem. SCORE grants have been something that have garnered a lot of bipartisan broad support. I'll just note that given budget dynamics, with which Nathan will touch on in a little bit, the outcome of this, is really dependent on what the state's budget outcome or outlook looks like, as well as the dynamics on the tax committee, which will change significantly after the election. Last issue I wanted to talk about was extended producer responsibility bills. There was a paper products bill that passed I think in 2023. The last two sessions we've seen an electronic waste as well as a battery waste EPR bills pushed forward this session. There was a lot of stakeholder negotiation done around the battery bill, and though it wasn't included at the end of session, I think it's likely this is something that could be ready to move next session. There also, I think, will be an electronic waste bill that will travel separate. That one still, I think, requires more stakeholder engagement, but something Micah will continue to need to monitor. Those are the three updates I wanted to share. I'm happy to take questions if there are any.
Just one issue. I don't know I don't remember the last time we discussed it as a board, but one thing personally that's near and dear to my heart is this issue around the energy, waste to energy, HERC plant. My concern, and my concern continues to be, is that the analysis on that needs to include the impact on our landfills. I get a strong feeling that there is a not in my backyard mentality in the cities, that we can shut this down and then Elk River is just going to be our dumping ground. And that's not an acceptable solution. So we need to be very strong on this, because I am not interested in expanding how much goes into our landfill because the cities want to shut down the waste energy plant.
Mr. Chair, I have actually been standing in the landfill on a day when the HERC was closed. 400 tons goes to us and 400 tons goes to Bloomington. And the real problem, or just what's so patently absurd about shutting down waste to energy, is that burning municipal solid waste is greenhouse gas negative. There is more greenhouse gas overall produced by a landfill than when you burn municipal solid waste. And obviously biomass is actually, when you calculate in the regrowing of the trees that were used, biomass is like, wood waste from plywood, wood waste from wood processing plants, those types of things. We have millions of tons of that rotting right now, throwing methane into the air. When we burn that, it's actually carbon negative. So what the PUC did on docket 352 has been fantastic. The 3,000 some pages of stuff that came in afterwards, what we need right now probably in this area, and what we're all going to be talking about, is we're going to need legislation to back this for the long term, to make sure that the legislation goes through. So our power producers who are looking at switching to biomass, or definitely Ramsey Washington, who uses 3 different Xcel Energy owned plants to burn their shredded solid waste. We need everybody to know that you can make the investment. I mean, if you got to throw $1 billion out of pocket to redo a plant or to create a new plant to burn biomass, you need to know it's going to be here for a while. So that's one of those things that, I really do appreciate Micah's approach to lobbying on this, and we're going to have to be doing that both personally and through every avenue that we have. I love burning trash.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll turn it back over to Nathan.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I so appreciate Greg's enthusiasm for burning trash and making sure that we do not become the dumping ground.
I should say burning trash responsibly.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
the important part.
yes, and we don't become the dumping ground for everybody's garbage.
All right, I have what's up here, just kind of a really simple picture of the state budget. So these numbers are in millions. So basically, they show the current biennium general fund spending significantly about $4 billion above general fund revenue. That's going to close to about a $2 billion gap on fiscal 28-29. The way that the legislature has been balancing the budget basically since the end of the 2024 legislative session has been rolling over previous one-time surplus to cover these gaps, right? So this just kind of shows you that the state has its own budget issues with spending coming in significantly higher than revenue. These numbers do not factor in inflation, and I should say that while this, $2 billion, obviously in 28-29, that's a significant gap, it's not the level of the state budget deficit in 2011, when in November 2010, when the size of the budget was about half of this, we had a state deficit of $6 billion. I'm not trying to diminish the current gap in revenues and spending. It is significant. There's not going to be resources the way there were a few years ago when it comes to different committees like, oh, we'll have $1 billion housing target, or we'll have $1 billion target over here or there. I mean, we're not going to go back to that. But it does also let you know that essentially the, well, I'll talk about this in a minute, but like if we're talking about cost shifts and preventing them from coming into place or reduction in aid, it's something we're going to be talking about in 2027. The budget reserve is at $3.42 billion. It's essentially full, but it continues to increase as the budget reserve essentially is indexed to the size of our state budget, a percentage of our state budget, and also the more volatile our revenue system is. Minnesota is more reliant on income and corporate taxes than most other states for general fund revenue. The size of the reserve goes up when in November, if current biennium revenues are coming in above what was expected. There have been this year revenues coming in above forecast, but that's largely due to a timing issue. And the near-term U.S. economic outlook is weaker than it was at the last budget forecast we had. So we're not expecting the next forecast, which is scheduled to come out the first week of December, to significantly improve this picture. So as far as what's next, right now there's some talk of a potential special session in response to disaster issues going on up north. I would say that virtually every summer there's always some discussion of a special session. Very few of them actually come into play, particularly during an election year where you've got 201 legislative seats on the ballot and all the constitutional offices. There are just the composition of the legislature, even before you factor in all the changes that are going to come about from elections, is going to be significantly different next year. The Senate, in particular, Senate DFL is going to have its most senior members are going to look a lot different. You've got the Senate Tax Chair, Senate HHS Chair, Senate Bonding Chair, all now running for re-election. You've got some pretty senior members in the House, like Ways and Means Chair Representative Paul Torkelson isn't running for re-election. He was hugely instrumental in our IT modernization bill. And I would just say again that the budget picture that I just talked about, if we're talking about what's it going to look like at the legislature next session, regardless of how these elections turn out in August and November, the budget picture is not going to change based on those elections. We're going to, I mean, I never would have anticipated going into 2025 that we would have spent that much time fighting back against county cost shifts, frankly, right? We're going to need to be playing both offense and defense at the Capitol next year. There's not ready-made, easily identified budget solutions that the state has. I mean, a few of you were talking about how last time it was proposed that the budget be balanced on the backs of property taxpayers. And I don't know whether or not that's going to be an issue again, but I'm anticipating that it possibly could be, and we're going to have to be ready to push back against that, especially given the level of increases that we've already seen the last few years statewide. So that's pretty much, and of course, any unfunded mandates, we're always trying to push back against unfunded mandates that could also potentially come down the pipe from the legislature, and make sure that if something comes through, that it's paid for on an ongoing basis, not just one time. Obviously, this past year, the legislature had some one-time money, was facing those structural deficit issues that I showed you, and they were much more willing to say, okay, well, $15 million one time, $10.7 million one time, but we're not going to make any commitments. We're hopeful in a budget year we're going to be able to make a harder push on that front, though. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, thanks very much, and thanks very much for your patience. Obviously, we had a very lively discussion prior to that, so I appreciate you accommodating us and letting us let the public have their say.
Yep. Thank you all.
Yep. Thank you very much. See you in September.
Oh yeah, I forgot I'm chair.
Chair.
So commissioner correspondence and committee reports. All right, Brad, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yep, it is. I need to slide over. My top 3 items are, I watched the Senate hearing, and a special thank you to Chairman Senator Ron Paul for doing his best to hold presidential pardon criminal Dr. Fauci accountable to the people. Keep up the good work. I'm asking for a workshop to discuss the work-at-home policy for Sherburne County Health and Human Services, stemming from a conversation that happened in the budget workshop, where there cannot be 2 truths to the same epic problem Sherburne County Health and Human Services is having. I want to be very specific. I want to end the work-at-home policy for Health and Human Services of over 100 employees and have them in the government building 50% of the time, just like Governor Walz did last year. And you'll remember, I observed the protest at the governor's mansion for the state employees who were upset about this. Lastly, I'm asking again on behalf of the numerous requests to have a workshop and set forth a plan and policy. I want to remove the flock cameras from the county right away, but I'd ask for the workshop. That's all.
You're up.
Okay, so in my time at the county fair, and as I've been running around knocking on doors virtually every day, one of the big things everybody asks is, what do we actually do? So I'm going to persist in at least mentioning the things that we do. I went to the forensic lab meeting, our shared lab with Anoka County and Wright County. We are working on one issue with Emmer's staff on a funding issue for that right now. Everything else is going pretty good there. Planning Advisory Commission, we've already covered what came out of that here at this meeting. Sherburne County Fair, spent 4 days there. Finally got around to watching some of the STEM activities that the 4-H does. It's really, really fantastic. They build these bridges that they decide who wins it based on the percentage of what it can hold. It was over 90,000%. This, like a 2-ounce bridge, was holding over 25 pounds. The one that held the most weight was 35, and these bridges are little things, and then they did a lot of rockets, and so it was really, really interesting. I think things like STEM are definitely going to be a lot of the future of 4-H. ETAC Executive Committee, that's one of the committees I sit on. We identified a few things for our next meeting. I sat through and watched 3 of the meetings for our new HHW combined building, primarily so that I keep abreast of what's happening with that. It's very interesting. It looks like it's coming together well. I think we're doing a good job. Andrew Witter's had some really good recommendations for that building. I went to the Great River Regional Library Finance. We did get their budget down to a 2.51% increase, so it's actually under the actual rate of inflation. That's great. And then we had the regular Great River Regional Library meeting. Things are going pretty well there. It's a good group. Community Corrections Appreciations event. I went to that. That was really, really interesting. It was nice. It was good to get down there and talk to the people who work in community corrections. Then sat through the Emmer call, I went to the Health and Human Services luncheon also. I mean, I think it's important that when we can, to try to show up for these things. I do have the time, being retired, so I do try to make it to all those things. The statewide emergency services board, just still looking for a lot of money to support the new armor systems that we're going to need. 911 does need to be improved. They're still working on money for that. That's going to have to come from the state. The 250th anniversary celebration out at the History Center went very, very well. Emma Horde is taking care of their events out there. It was very well attended. A lot of people had a great time. That was a good deal. Then I had another meeting for the ETAC on emerging issues, what we're going to be having coming up, looking at power, and everything really settles around what are we going to do for baseload power and how are we going to deal with this transition away from the forced transition away from coal. And then watched an e-bike webinar from the U of M. That's a good one. The big thing with e-bikes is what's really working is that education about safe operation and then enforcement of the rules for e-bikes are proving very effective in reducing crashes. Not surprising there. I watched another webinar on introduction to rural rental housing loans. They're trying to make some changes in that. Some of those are promising. We'll see what actually comes out of the feds for that. I filled in for Rayanne at the air show in St. Cloud. That's probably one of the, getting called to say, geez, we need somebody to go. That's probably one of the least punishing fill-ins I've had to do for a while. They did a fantastic job. I think it was very well attended, and I'm looking forward to having more of them in the future. And just one last thing on that. The F-22 plane does things that jets should not be able to do when there's a skilled pilot. It's really interesting to watch, and it was a heck of a deal. Constituent issues, like I said, I spent a lot of time talking to people. Usual taxes, everything we're talking about today is a daily conversation. Solar, nuclear, County Road 23 has had multiple issues. Thanks to Dave Rodell, he's been putting in a lot of extra work trying to resolve these issues, and we did actually successfully get some of the poles that were going to be moved to the east side are actually now going to be moved to the west side, eliminating some of the effect on people's properties there. Dave has put in a ton of extra time on that, and I do appreciate that work. We're looking at a vet benefit issue. And that's another thing that I'm doing with Emma. It's section 108 of HR 9273. Overall, it's a great bill for vets, but there's one part in there that would transfer some funding for certain classes of vets to other people, and we should not cut one vet's benefits to serve another. So we're working on that. And there's a couple of comments that people have been talking about, as far as what Sherburne County does or what Sherburne County doesn't do. We have a fraud investigator. I want to say that for the record. We aggressively investigate fraud. Our Auditor Treasurer's Office has found fraud. We aggressively go after everything that we are allowed to investigate. There's some things that the state alone has the ability to investigate. So there's more work to be done there. People were talking about transparency and primarily fiscal transparency. And it was covered here briefly, and we've covered it before. We publish every dollar we spend. It's on our website. We put it in the local papers. So if you want to know how much we spent on toilet paper, you can find out. If you want to actually look it up. So I can't think of what we could do to be possibly more transparent on our fiscal policy than publish everything that we do, both the budget and the actual bills that we pay, time after time. And then, we talk a lot about our processes in here, and that's really it. I mean, and then, when people are talking about whether or not we get back to them right away, I mean, you can't expect immediate answer, or you can't expect answers to emails that are sent in the middle of the night. You can't expect people to answer calls in the middle of the night. You can't expect that people are making multiple calls at inappropriate times. But I know that we all try to, as best as we can, answer people in a reasonable period of time. And by golly, if I forget to get back to you, please go ahead and email or call me again, and ultimately we will have that discussion. And that's about all I got. which is some, but a lot.
Thank you. Dan, do you want to go next?
Yes, I can. Attended, of course, the 2 days of budget workshops that kicked off our budget discussion for 2027. I attended the Scraps to Soil community kickoff in Big Lake, recognizing that Big Lake now has a dumpster that you can put your food scraps in, and it's being very a lot of people are really signing up to be a part of that process. So that was good to see. Also attended the community corrections appreciation lunch, and I concur with Greg. It is always good to be able to thank everybody in community corrections for all the hard work that they do on behalf of the county. And also attended the Amherst staff meeting. Had a wave building committee meeting. There is a group that are trying to build a building that will help our youth after school for somewhere to go and be able to do their homework, and interact with other kids and do different activities. So we're working towards getting a building. They do have the land. Now it's just getting the funding and getting the building done. Had the agenda review, also had a Central Minnesota Council on Aging meeting, and did a lot of various other things that the board chair is charged with doing. So that is pretty much it from my end. And then also, I wish I could be there in person. Unfortunately, I took a terrible fall and really impacted my knee. And so I'm working on getting through that and getting back up and on my feet, literally, without hobbling around.
Well, get well, Rianne. Thanks for that.
Thank you. And thank you for doing a great job,
Thanks.
Mr. Vice Chair.
Yeah, I won't forget this, trust me. There you go.
Well, without going through a litany of all of the other things that have already been mentioned, besides the budget workshop, the community corrections lunch, the one thing I'll highlight is the State Community Health Services Advisory Committee, SHAC. Our first step committee, they made a presentation to them the other day through the state agency, which I thought they did tremendous. It's the 4 counties joint power agreement we have for the first step thing. I think they did. It's being recognized. It's been at AMC. It's been at the state. I think it shows what that program has been doing, and I think it's been highlighted quite a bit that it's been successful and it continues to grow. The other thing I want to do on a personal note is just I want to thank Commissioner Hulse. He's kind of been the face of Sherburne County over the last month and a half, 2 months, in regards to the levy, the nuclear talks. He's articulated our position extremely well. I think he deserves a lot of credit for why this room was filled and the way he handled this room this morning. But there's no other way to put it, but it's just a big thank you to him and the way he's done this for the levy and explaining the position on nuclear power and all of that through the media has been tremendous. And thank you. I'm done.
Totally concur. Thank you. Thank you.
No worries. The big things that I went through was obviously we talked about the budget workshops, which kicked a lot of this stuff off. I've had some community corrections meetings. We had some technology meetings. There's a couple of things I want to follow up on. If Lynn's around at some point before we're done, I have one constituent issue I'd like to follow up with her on, and then Andrew, same thing. Just when you get into, actually, there's 2. You've got 2 issues we got to talk about. They're not bad. Just two. Just today. But I think the big thing today is that I just wanted to thank everybody for their patience today. At the end of the day, it's our job to take the slings and arrows. And sometimes we're taking the slings and arrows for things that are out of our control. But local government is here to be the closest representative to the public. And sometimes the public feels pretty helpless with things that are being imposed on them. And it's important that that they have an opportunity to be heard and be treated with respect. I realize sometimes things can get heated. It got a little heated earlier this morning, but I also appreciate the fact that I think by the end of the discussion, they realized that we are all, in fact, on the same side. Sometimes the path to get there is differs by opinion, but we are all on the same side. So I appreciate everybody's help and patience, and I look forward to the open house that we've set up. I think those would be good discussions. Like you said, the majority of my time, much more so than if you would have told me 2 months ago, I would have done this many interviews. I would have said, no, I don't think so, but I have. And actually, I enjoy it. And actually, I've been going back and forth with a couple of reporters multiple times at this point. So we've actually built a pretty good rapport. So I appreciate it. I do think where we are with respect to the state mandates is in a better place because the public actually is starting to see it now.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get that changed without a push from the public. You know, we've spent the last year and a half going down to the Capitol and testifying in sometimes hostile conditions, as Bruce could attest.
Absolutely.
And we can talk, and we've been screaming it from the mountaintops, and now the word is finally getting through. So this is where we need to be, and we need to continue that momentum. It's the only way we're going to turn this around. So I appreciate everybody's help on that. And with that, I think what I'd like to do is, can we do it? Can we do it?
I would say take a break, and then Lorraine will be here for a short workshop.
Yeah, how long a break you want to do, Bruce?
Well, why don't you do till 11:45?
Okay, 15.
And then I've asked Lynn to try to swing around about noon. I don't think the workshop will be very long, so.
Okay, we will take a 12.5-minute break.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, and yes.
I just wanted to make sure, are we going to do the workshop in the boardroom? And
Yes.
so I'll still be online then? I'll just
Yes,
wait
ma'am.
the break. Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Thank you.
I would think.
Yep.
That makes sense.
So with that being said, I'm going to adjourn the regular meeting